Today, we're making Desperation Pie. Why is it called that? When money was tight or when fruit was scarce, you still had the ingredients to make this pie. It's cheap, it's simple, and it's delicious. Today, we know it better as Southern Buttermilk Pie. Jump on in and make it with me. Hi, I'm Mary Catherine, and welcome to my table. I'm so glad you're here today. This is one of our favorites here in the South. This pie has been around a long time. The roots of this pie go all the way back to England. They brought this recipe when they settled here in America. So this recipe is as old as our nation. Let me show you the ingredients. You'll start with a prepared pie crust. I'm going to make one today, but I'm not going to show you how. We will link that in the description box. It's delicious, so we'll post that for you. We'll start by melting 1 cup of butter, and to our butter, we'll add 6 beaten eggs. Then we'll combine our dry ingredients using 1/2 cup of flour. This is plain all-purpose. 3½ cups of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and then we're also going to come in with 1 cup of buttermilk and a teaspoon of vanilla. This is going to be enough to make 2 pies. So if you need to take them to a potluck, that's perfect. You'll have plenty because the pies get gone fast. Or if you need to save one for yourself and then have one to share with someone else, that's perfect too. So let's jump on in and make 2 pies. We have our pie crust ready. You see them right here. I mixed all of this up together. My pie crust recipe is a double crust. So if you're making a pie with a double crust, it works. But if you're making 2 pies, it's also exactly what you need. So we did that recipe. We'll show it to you here. But all we did was quickly mix up the dry ingredients, add the butter to it. And once that butter gets incorporated and becomes pea size, then you add your liquid, just some ice cold water. And once it comes together, I do use my mixer, but you stop mixing right away. So it comes together quickly, we roll it out, and then we put it in our pie pans, just like this. Now let's put the filling together for our pie. First, I want us to mix up our dry ingredients. We're going to use 3½ cups of sugar. Remember, this is enough for 2 pies. Now we need 1/2 cup of flour. This is, again, just plain all-purpose flour. And it's not like a cake, so you don't have to be extremely careful in using the dip level pour method with your flour today. Now we need 1 teaspoon of salt. This is a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'll need that twice. And there we go. Now I'm just going to use a whisk and just give this a quick mix. That flour will break down in the sugar. Mixing it like this, and that's exactly what we want. You can see that already happening. All right, there we go. Now let's just set this aside. The next thing we want to do is take our butter and we're going to melt it. This is 1 cup of butter. That's 2 whole sticks. Now that we have our butter melted, we're going to add our eggs to it. I'm going to do that one at a time, and I'm going to beat them before adding them into the eggs. Okay, we had a little break while we were getting our eggs ready. We had a whole batch of farm fresh eggs that were bad. We could not use them at all, so Darren had to make a quick trip to the store to get some eggs for us to use today. But this is exactly why I'm cracking each egg in a bowl by itself first and making sure it's good. And then I'm going ahead and beating it up a little bit. And then I'm going to combine them. But once we know they're all good, that's perfectly great. But we want to crack each one individually just to make sure we're not getting a bad egg. That saved our whole pie from being ruined, because if I had added the eggs straight into the butter, I would have had to start all of that over again. So here we are.
It really would have been a desperation pie.
That would have been a desperation pie. Exactly. We were feeling a little desperation when we were cracking all those eggs that were rotten, weren't we? But I do love the story behind this desperation pie. You know, it did come over from British tradition, and some of the settlers who came down south carried it with them, particularly in Texas. But then it spread across the whole South. And then also into the African American tradition. And they were very good about passing on recipes from generation to generation. And so here we are today, still getting to enjoy this delicious Desperation pie that we now call a buttermilk pie. All right. That's our last egg. Now we got some good eggs. I'll beat these up just a little bit together. And now we're going to add them into our melted butter. And the good thing is our butter's had plenty of time to cool, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll just do a quick mix with my fork there. Now we want to add our dry ingredients. So I'm just going to use the pitcher that I have the butter melted in, because that will make it easy to pour up into our pie shells. And while I'm mentioning pie shells again, let me tell you that I am going ahead and chilling those while we're getting the filling ready for our pie. So you'll want to do the same thing. You want to have them chilled either in your fridge, or you can even pop them in your freezer. You just want them good and cold when you add this delicious pie filling before you pop it in the oven. Okay. Now I'm going to switch over to my whisk for the last couple ingredients. And this is where we use our buttermilk. I'll give it a good shake, and we're going to use 1 cup of buttermilk. And we're also going to get some good flavor by adding a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to give it a little extra splash. That is not going to hurt at all. And you can see how this was a great pie to have when food was scarce, perhaps, back at the start of the nation. Maybe you didn't have a lot of fruit available or other fancy ingredients, but these were just simple things that you would almost always have. Eggs, buttermilk, a little flour and sugar, some butter, and even before refrigeration, you could have these things, and you could make your own butter, you could make your own buttermilk, you could gather your own eggs on the farm, and you can make this pie. All right, I think we've got it mixed pretty well. Now I'm going to get our pie crust out of the freezer, and we're going to pour this up. We just want to try to pour equal amounts into each of our pies. And now they're ready to go into the oven. I bake at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. I'm going to check mine at about 30 minutes and make sure it's not getting too brown. If it is, I'll come in and cover it with a little piece of foil loosely just to keep it from getting too brown. It's time to take our pies out of the oven. They look beautiful. All right, they're nice and golden brown on top. I did not have to cover them. They did just perfect in my oven. But you check yours. Yours may bake differently than mine. You may need to cover them with foil to keep them from getting too brown. And let me see if this will show up on camera for you. It still looks a little bit jiggly in the center, and that is normal with this pie. You have to let it set up completely as it cools. So it's going to be at least 2 to 3 hours before we can cut into this pie and get a piece. So just know that going in, it's still a bit runny, but it will set up.
You mean we have to wait before we can eat them?
Yes, we do.
That's another reason why it's called Desperation Pie.
You're so desperate for a piece by the time you finally get one,
That's
right?
right.
Okay. It's been a few hours, so I think we're safe in cutting our pies and giving them the taste test. It looks like it turned out perfect. Let's hope it tastes delicious. One thing about this pie, through the history of it, is they discovered that it went so well with a cup of coffee. So if you are someone who loves a good piece of pie with a cup of coffee, I think you'll love this one too.
Oh, that's me. That's me.
That is you. Now, it would look really pretty if we put some homemade whipped cream on top, and you can absolutely do that. But let me tell you, this pie can stand on its own. Let me taste it just the way it is. Mm. That is delicious. Those ingredients are so simple. You probably have most of them in your pantry or your fridge right now, and you could make this pie. And it is so yummy. It's good. It's just so good.
As good as it tastes
Mhm.
right now, and I'm anxious to try it myself. You think it earns the label Desperation Pie?
Well, yes, because if you're desperate for a good piece of pie and you can't afford all that fruit or other things that they might have had trouble finding 200 or 300 years ago, yes, this would do the trick. You would be totally happy to have this anytime, any place, anywhere. This pie is great. And that homemade crust, that just makes it. So if you want to check out that homemade pie crust, you can go right here and see that video. Okay, that's it today for Mary Catherine's Table. Thanks for joining us. And remember, go out today, find somebody who needs a little bit of kindness, and give them some of yours.